Hey everyone, welcome back to Play Casket on another episode of Your Turn with your wonderful hosts, Parag the Goblin and
Ghost, your co-host.
And this week we're going to just cover basically, a lot of people have had doom and gloom about layoffs and restructuring and stuff as of late. And honestly, I can't really blame them. There's a lot of economic struggles going on out there. We're not going to get too much into it because, YouTube likes to punish that.
It's another tech massacre.
Another tech massacre. Not really, but basically we're gonna highlight that. But that's basically all that this episode's gonna be about today. So, and maybe a subtle node, an ode to physical media. May you live stronger forever. But we're gonna go ahead and start with that. Why don't you go ahead and introduce what we got going on?
So first off, Sega kills Creative Assembly, and I guess they were making a game called Hyenas. I didn't know anything about it.
Dude, we literally had to just look that up. We heard about it and we're like, man, that sucks. And then we had to go, wait, what's Hyenas? And I was like, wait, a game called Hyenas sounds awesome. Is it like hyenas killing each other? That'd be awesome. Just grow to become bigger, like a Hungry Shark World, but with hyenas. That'd be awesome. That'd be savage hell. No, it's not. It's a first-person shooting game that also has anti-gravity.
It looks like Lawbreakers. If anybody remembers
Lawbreakers, yeah. And Cliffy B's notorious failure after trashing the crap out of Nintendo at the time.
But the reason why Sega is killing them is because they're not doing so hot in Europe. So they're downsizing. There's also a bunch of other games that they didn't announce, or they're going to be killing off because they didn't do so well in Europe. So
to say this right now, it's not uncommon. It's actually pretty common that there's going to be many games that are unannounced projects that get canned.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And that's why a lot of companies don't really mention them, because almost every time they mention them and they have something to show and they have to cancel it because it's not something that's vibing, or they think that the development's costing too much to a point where they don't know if they're going to keep it up and all that. And that's why they don't really announce something unless they have some kind of solid window or if it's a guaranteed release.
Yeah.
For instance, Sega's going to announce a Sonic game, even if it's years in advance. That's just simple as that, right? We know that. Sega knows that. But would Sega announce a new RPG unless they know they could release it to at least a significant in a significant time and have it be widely receptive? If they don't know, that RPG may never see the light of day, and we might never know about it.
Yeah. For the most part, it probably doesn't get past the drawing board. So.
Yeah, there's a good example. The most notorious story is Capcom when they announced Mega Man Legends 3, and they're like, "Hey, come aboard, and this is how basically it was peeling back the veil and saying, look, this is how we develop games." Then they canceled it, and people lost their f***ing minds, everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And people keep saying it would have been so good, guys. It would have been so good. We don't know that. That's the whole reason why Capcom probably canned it, because they did not know if it would.
Yeah.
And they look at the numbers, and the numbers for Mega Man Legends 1 and 2, even without 64 in it, were pretty bad.
Yeah. That's why it's best to keep your mouth shut.
So if they were trying to develop that game without anybody's knowledge, no one would be the wiser. And I think that's a problem. Even Microsoft has done this too with Phantom Dust, or I think it's called Phantom Dust. That game also had a teaser trailer and it looked pretty cool. It was supposed to be this action RPG style game that was supposed to rival something that was coming out at the time for Japan. It was supposed to appeal for the Japan market and stuff. And it was pseudo anime as hell, but it was dumb. It got canceled too, right? And people are like, oh, it would have been good. The problem is a lot of the community loves to believe that any game that was announced that gets canned would have been fundamentally way cooler than whatever they got. If Nintendo announced a Mario game that would fundamentally cancel, let's put it this way: Mario can sell a puzzle game, the most boring of all games. If Nintendo has no faith in a game that they're making with Mario in it, I'm willing to believe Nintendo has the right decision to cancel it. You know what I mean? If they can't just slap Mario on it and go, would this be good? They would be like, we should probably not. Yeah. So that it's a common thing. It's just hilarious how the community always latches onto this. Like, that's another thing that, it is fundamentally a very common thing. What isn't common is when they have to close an entire studio in the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, just goes to show that a lot of live services are starting to die off.
Yeah.
Which makes me kind of crazy. Like, it makes me think that it's kind of crazy that you see all these dead live services games and everybody's just like, oh, let's make our own as well. It's like, no, they're getting slaughtered left and right. Overwatch is the Overwatch killer. Like,
yeah. Well, like I remember like we all know there's many people who are at least aware of the game Paladins, right? And Paladins is basically, it came out at the same time Overwatch did, and they were like, oh, here we go, it's just all the carbon copies. They were literally both in development at the same time. How would they have known?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What I think is funny is over that same course of time between Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2's release, Paladins has released more characters, more concepts, more season passes, more everything else, and is still fundamentally free to play than Overwatch ever did.
oh yeah, but does it have dynamic lighting? Does it have gay characters? That's
It
what
does.
I thought. That's what I thought.
It literally has one, but they will never make it canon in game, and a lot of the community's all upset about it. And I was like, well, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. And I think it's really hilarious because on the outside they're like, yeah, that character, yeah, that dude's on the colors, that dude's on the scheme. And then they're like, oh, well, why didn't you make it like that in the game? Because, you know. But I think it's funny because people keep trying to find out all these character-based first-person shooters. They even said that about Valorant. Dude, I barely see Valorant even anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I'm on YouTube sometimes and I'm like scrolling through. They always have those like watch streamers play, and they have like little categories. You want to know what's the number one out of that category I keep seeing consistently? Gunfire. It's a mobile game. It has like 36 consecutive viewers constantly, and Fortnite has 18, which segue right on into Fortnite is getting their staff cut about 16%, and
So
people are apparently very up in arms about it.
So, if anything, it's a reduction of workforce. So, about 870 people. 16% seems pretty par for the course for laying people off. I mean, when you're in the tech sector, too, a lot of it's contract jobs.
Yeah, so for a lot of people who don't understand, like a lot of this work, especially like with modeling work or rigging work or animation work and stuff like that, especially music. Fortnite has a lot of music that is literally licensed out to other people making it for their lobby music and stuff. They do not do any in-house music in Fortnite. Though Fortnite does fundamentally own the rights to all that music, everyone else they license somebody else out on it. But when the contract ends, just like with season passes, and the contract ends and says, look, we're keeping this is what's going on, and we're not going to renew it, it counts towards the layoffs that they make.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, and like the reason why a lot of people, and I'm trying to be very realistic here, like the way I think a lot of people see is they just see a company never growing but always firing people. Like if they actually show how much, like for instance, Epic Games actually grew in this last year and how many they actually hired, and then they compare it to how many they fired, then they're like, so they kept this many? Because again, like you said, contract jobs and stuff like that accounts for these layoffs and restructuring and stuff like that. And on top of that, let's objectively look at Fortnite, right? Fortnite's been out what, 8 to 10 years roughly within that scope. Usually, and I'm only basing this based off of my experiences with like MMOs and especially ones with expansions. I'm going to use World of Warcraft as an example. When they release an expansion, they have the whole team kind of just powering through this content, getting everything to shore it up so they have release, trickle down releases content until the next expansion. As the time moves forward, they start moving a lot of that team off and maybe even letting some of them go, because maybe they had to hire them for XYZ reasons. Some of those layoffs could also be internships as well, say your internships are up and all this, and they'll roll through it and they'll move them onto a new team. They keep saying something about Fortnite's restructuring. Now, here's what I think is going to happen, and this is what my prediction. I think a Fortnite 2, more or less not a full-blown sequel, but I feel like it's probably going to be kind of like a complete overhaul of Fortnite, is in the works.
Oh, okay.
And I think a lot of the stuff that's going to be in Fortnite 2, quote unquote, I'm going to say 2.0.
Okay.
Right? Fortnite 2.0, I think, is going to be basically the way Overwatch 2 came out. A lot of the old stuff's going to be there, but everything is going to be amped up to 11, basically.
More gay people. Right?
More queer people. We're going to have more lighting. All the lighting. More lighting that light can never even handle. Just so many streams of rays. Just all of them. Streams of rays and rays of streams. Just all of them. Just all the rays and streams. And I think that's what's going to happen, is they're fundamentally backing up this new Fortnite structure. Fortnite's still very wildly successful. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But I do see them kind of like preparing for the next big launch of Fortnite. But with the restructuring, ultimately, it's very common, you know, and we're literally in the third quarter of the fiscal year coming up.
Yeah.
So everyone's cutting their losses to try to get under budget, so they could kind of prepare for what's happening for their reports.
February and March hits. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, look how much money we made by firing all these people. Yeah.
Yeah. Look how much money we made in the holidays because they didn't have to pay for many people.
Yeah.
It is literally par for the course with the systems. It doesn't happen just in video games, and it just doesn't happen like anywhere else like that. It literally, like Walmart even does it, you know? Mm-hmm. And Walmart makes a whole bunch of money all the time from everyone because everyone likes to pick their nose and grab peanut butter from there. You know, it's just stupid. But for the most part, like, yeah, the layoff stuff is a weird problem. But at the same time, we're probably going to see a lot more layoffs than usual because of those live services. Going back to the live service conversation, a lot of gamers, everyone, literally, like, there's other people out there that have never touched a live service game who's like, yeah, dude, I'm not going to do that because honestly,
there's too many of them.
Well, there's not only just too many, but so many people who, like, they try to entice you, like, you have to be dedicated to this game, period.
Not to mention, like, if one dies, you'll find another one tomorrow. Like, there's new ones coming out every day.
Well, look at mobile games and stuff, too. If Raid Shadow Legends dies today, everyone who plays Raid Shadow Legends could probably find another RPG like it tomorrow. Or 4 or 5 of them. Who knows? You know, they'll find one that'll fit their vibe. And mobile games and live service games will pretty much hand in hand basically work the same way. And the problem is, like, a lot of people are getting enticed to try to do these, like, dedication. Like, they keep going, you need this content, right? You need to play our stuff or else we're not going to reward this awesome content to you. And then when you get all this cool content, you want to show it off, you know, your skins or your new weapons or your levels or whatever. You can't show it off if you're not playing it.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff is to show off to other people, like, look how cool I am, which then puts you in a position where you have to actually play the game constantly, right? Which that's basically the way a lot of these investors and these developer publishers and stuff are saying, look, we need to make a game that makes people stay on point, and then when they come in late, we'll have content that they have to feel obligated to buy to even experience the game the same way people who originally started it. That's why they love it, and that's why a lot of people go, oh, I'm going to try out Overwatch, or I'm going to try out Fortnite, and like in year 7, and then they just get curb stamped.
Yeah,
they get curb stomped, and then they're like, oh, I'm not going to feel like this game. And then people try to use these active player bases as the way to kind of punish people when they try to compare it to, like, single player games. Yeah, when you play a single player game, when you're done with the game, you stop.
Well, you play at your own leisure too, because you could just jump. You just turn on a single player game and you're like, oh, well, there's my progress, instead of having to play at having to play at your team's pace.
And then, of course, there's stuff like League of Legends, for instance. Like, I like some of the characters. I kind of like some of the lore, like, from when I used to play it and stuff. But at the same time, I can't stand the community. I would rather, like, out of anything League of Legends out there, I'm excited about the adventure game with Willump and Nunu more than any other, like, going back to playing League of Legends. And in fact, I think games like that should be more widely accessible, so I could just, like, try some of those games. Like, I would play a, like, 4-player co-op game of Overwatch, like, if we're just competing against one another. Like, I would play that. Especially if it's an offline game that I could just play at my own leisure and, like, play through some kind of history, basically, like an origin story of Overwatch. I would do that. But if you don't give it to me, I'm not gonna just be going, oh, well, I love Overwatch so much, I'm gonna play. No, I'm not gonna do that.
You will get to play the gay origin story.
If it's at my own leisure, then fine. Like, if this is how we're gonna negotiate. But no, that's also another, like, just another note on making sure things are physical. You know what I mean? Like, literally it is. Because these live action games, or live service games, when they're done, they shut off the servers, they're done.
Yeah.
All the stuff you did and all that just out the window. Congratulations. Thank you for playing my game. Now piss off.
Thanks,
that's basically what it happened. Like, it has happened to me multiple times. Battlerite practically died, even though servers are still up. Knockout City closed their servers in June. City of Heroes, when I used to play that, closed their servers years and years and years ago. WildStar, when I was enjoying that MMO, closed up too.
And now Space Wolf.
I can't do any. I can't play any of that. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, since you wanted to push that so much, Warhammer 40k is removing the game Space Wolf, which for most people, not exciting, but it's going to be a tipping point for a lot of other 40k games that are going to get removed due to just licensing. It's nothing crazy, no drama. It's just that licensing is expiring and Games Workshop just doesn't feel the need to renew those licenses to keep those games running.
Yeah.
That's it. And that makes the whole point of physical media more critical. Because imagine, like, that's also why I hate licensed games, but we're going to get there to a point. Physical games, when you buy it, it is your right to play it all the time. Just like the whole censorship they had with Skullgirls. I still have the original Skullgirls Second Encore release on Switch, and they can't change it. Now, piss off. And because, like, oh, you don't really own that game. You're going to need to update. Oh, no, I don't. I can just play local. Do you really think I care?
Yeah.
Most of the time I play fighting games on the Switch because, let's be honest, the Switch does have it's basically ingrained into the system a button press lag.
Okay.
Not much, but it's like a few frames. But for a fighting game, unless I'm playing casually with friends and just enjoying it, I don't care. So I'm not buying a game that, if I want to be serious to play on, I'm not buying a fighting game on Switch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because I don't fundamentally own the characters, nobody's coming into our mausoleum, marching all the way down to this basement, all the floors, and getting past the hellhounds and everything else to come over and just take that game because I no longer own it. That's not happening. I have a physical copy. I can play it whenever I want in the way at least the base game allows me to. If I'm uncomfortable with that, that is exactly how it works. Now, back to the licensed gaming issue. I hate licensing games because this is exactly the problem we have. If you really enjoy, like, an old classic game, unlike the Genesis or the original Xbox or the PlayStation 1 or 2 or 3, and the license just expires, and you're like, man, remember that Captain Crunch game? That was awesome. We should go back and play that again. Or maybe it's a game that you just want to go back and try to play, like, hope that it gets ported or whatever because you have no access to it. It will never happen because it requires everyone to basically be on board. And there's people such as, like, the Cheetos company never want to be like, nah, I don't want that game to be released again. I mean, look how much time it took limited run games to get Gargoyles out. It took them years and years and years to negotiate with Disney about it. And then their biggest like white whale that they tried to hunt down for like literally generations of games is the Scott Pilgrim game, because Scott Pilgrim is owned by a like manga artist, I think, a little artist who makes the comic, and then the game's owned by Ubisoft, and they can't do anything either or without the other one's like confirmation for it.
Yeah.
So that game is literally like, and then you got LRG trying to negotiate between those two buttheads to try to even make that game happen. You know, like, good luck trying to get one of the old Sega Genesis games if somebody else is other than like one company is involved.
Yeah, that's why the new Smash Bros is going to be like hard as hell.
We're probably not going to see everybody come back
too.
That's what I think. That's why I think the next Smash Brothers is just going to be Ultimate Plus.
No, okay.
I think trying to, like I said, when we recorded that, they would have needed to start years before, like they would have needed to start development already. You know what I mean? Before they even released the final character.
Yeah.
They would have had to already start development. And it would have to be in development for a while. Like, it would be in, like, if the Switch 2 came out in 2024, we would still not see the game until 2026. At least. Like, not even just a smidgen about it, right? That's a lot. If they really want, they should just make Ultimate X, basically. And honestly, that would be enough. You know, Ultimate X, fix a couple bugs, and add new characters, new maps, new assist trophies. You know, and most people would be like, just give me that. You know, and hell, you can technically even do like a refresh of like Donkey Kong and Mario or something like that too. Like, do you really think a lot of the people are gonna be like, oh, but it's not Ultimate without Mario playing this way? That's what's called Ultimate X. There is other games out there that have done that before. Now, if they really wanted to do that, they can do that. You know?
Yeah. But the licensing, pain in the dick.
Yeah, but the licensing, even if they ported it, the licensing would take years. And then on top of that, Disney's still there.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing I'm saying, like, that would probably hinder even releasing a whole new game, let alone a port.
Yep.
Like, in order to make a port, it would probably be a port without Sora. Just because of how Disney is so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
So, but we might see more 40K Warhammer 40K games kind of close up shop too, only because of licensing. You know, let's not get too crazy on it. But yeah, that's why you should always opt for physical. So if you like Warhammer and you want to collect Warhammer, there's games called, what was it, Blood, Gore, and Teeth or something like that. Shutas, and that's a kind of like a Guns, Gore, and Cannoli knockoff, but with Warhammer. And then there's a game that's basically kind of like a Doom wannabe called Bolt Gun. Also, I heard it was really fun. Consider trying to pick those up physical. There's a couple others out there like Mechanicus and Space Marine 2. Pick them up when you can, because
isn't there a deadline before they kill?
There's going to be I think they're closing it at the end of the year.
Okay.
At least from the Nintendo eShop, they could be negotiated for other areas, but they do plan on having massive sale for it in case you want to still pick it up digitally, because it's the only way you're going to get it.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that the game Space Wolf, it was one of the poorer games. So who knows who's going to really want to buy it.
Okay.
But, you know, maybe for $4 we will probably pick it up. But yeah, you know, just an ode to how wonderful physical media is. Everybody give us a round of applause because we're so smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just par for the course around this time. We literally always see this, like, cuts, these employee cuts around this time.
Yeah.
Every time. It's always the same time, and then they ramp up literally on March after the fiscal year. They just start hiring a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
So, for that, you know, keep in mind of that. Always pay attention to how people act and how people work around and stuff like that. It does suck for Sega struggling in Europe, but Europe also charges you entertainment tax, so sucks to be Europe. You know what I mean? But anyway, I want to thank you all for sticking around with both of us. And as always, if you like our content, feel free to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, we will see you on the other side. Hey everyone, this is Paraka.
And Ghost.
I would like to say thank you for listening to our podcast.
If you like our content, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our video with your friends.
You can also follow and support us on other social media such as Minds and Rumble. Links in the description below.